Hi, my name is Bia from On a Divine Note, and in this episode, we're going to be discussing some pretty heavy topics such as sexual abuse, so viewer discretion is advised.
At On a Divine Note, we explore a wide range of topics that nourish the soul and body.
From healing and wellness to relationships and spirituality, we dive into the mind, self-care, trauma, love, and so much more.
Join us as we create a space for growth, connection, and holistic well-being. Welcome to On a Divine Note. Welcome back to On a Divine Note. I am Bia.
I am Shira.
And I'm Naya.
And today we are going to have another episode of Storytime. This time it's with our very own Dashira. Yes.
So excited.
Yes. You feeling good?
I am feeling good, y'all. I was nervous coming in. So I definitely commend you two for your story times. But yeah, nervous, but also like really excited and feel like I need to tell my story.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Hop on in. I'm ready.
Just like that. We're going
Hop on in.
Yes. What I will say, beginning to like start it, this has been a trying week for me. It's been a trying week. And I had to just really sit and like realize like, okay, I am going to be telling my story publicly. I'm going to be vulnerable, you know, and just things that were happening at work, things that were happening in my personal life as well. It just kind of showed me, wow, like I must have a powerful story more than I even know about.
Yeah.
So I just want to start off there. It was a lot to get here today, even all the way up until last night, y'all. So just did a lot of prayer before today. But I have my notes, like you said, that you did, Naya. And even though I have my notes, I don't know if it's going to go in the order or not.
Right.
So just follow me. Follow me. But what I will say is I'll start with where I am and who I am today. I am 30 years old, 30 years young. I'm a single mom of a very handsome, beautifully spirited boy. Yes. My son, Ayan, he is 7 years old. I do music, I sing, I act. What else do? I have a podcast with these beautiful ladies. And then I just do a bunch of other things as well, musicals. But I will say, starting out in life, I've always felt out of place. I've always felt out of place. I've always felt misunderstood by people. And just like being here on earth was just a different experience for me. Ever since I was younger, I could actually see spirits. I could see spirits. I could talk to them. I could see directly through people. I would have visions and premonitions of certain things. This is also going to sound a little wonky and weird, but I could also sometimes hear people's thoughts. Don't judge me on that, but sometimes I could hear people's thoughts. Like, for example, my mom, like, you would be like, I would hear her say, Shira! And I'd be like, huh? And she'd be like, I didn't say anything. She said, but I was just about to call you. You know, just like I have always been very, very intuitive, super like empathetic and sensitive to like all things spiritual, starting at a very, very young age. One of my very first experiences that kind of shaped me into the person that I am today was when my principal died when I was in kindergarten. Mama, you know the story.
Yeah.
My principal died when I was in kindergarten. And before we even got to my school that day, I told my mom that my principal had died. And my mom had looked at me and she's like, why would you say that? You do not say that. That's not a good thing, you know? And when we got to the school, I don't know if it was the assistant principal or if it was another teacher or whoever was there. But they had pulled my mom aside, to whisper about the situation. And the lady had told my mom that my principal had died. So she looked at me like with a ghost face, like, how did you know that? That's weird. What the heck? Like, So, so from there, I think she realized in that moment, like, okay, my daughter, I have to be more attentive to her and give her things that not the typical, more than what the typical kid would need at her age. And mind you, I think I was maybe 5, 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what age kindergarten is, but
yeah, I think about 6.
6
at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then still went to school that day. They had announced it. We had an assembly at the time, and they had announced it to all of the kids, and we were all in there. We were sitting down, and all my little friends were all around me, and we were sitting, and they had announced it. And I'm just like, okay, I saw him earlier. He seemed fine to me. Like, I know he's not here anymore, but I know he's dead. But I mean, what's the difference, right? And that's when everybody started crying around me. So in that moment, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should cry too, because I don't think it's normal for me to not cry about it. So then I began to cry. And then I saw my principal at the front of the assembly.
Wow.
And my principal had chocolate, beautiful skin, and he had a head full of gray hair. And he had all white on, and he was sort of like floating. The movies got it a little bit, like about how ghosts look, spirits look. So he was like floating, and he was like, Dashira. He's like, why are you crying? He was like, you know that I'm okay. He said, you know that because we spoke about it. And he said, you don't have to follow other people. He said, you are a leader. He said, so instead of crying, just help them and comfort them.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And I wiped my tears. And instead of me following them and crying and going with the pack, I started consoling my friends, like, it's okay. He's okay. And that's what I did. And in that moment, I knew I can't follow. I cannot follow other people. I have to be a leader, and I have to I have to walk in my truth, starting from a young child until I was older. Like, I knew that I couldn't do what everybody else did because I was held to a different standard.
Yes.
And I knew that early on. But you also feel like an oddball. Nobody sees what you see.
Yeah.
And then I've also seen like different spirits. I won't say their names because I don't want it to be a big thing, but I've seen celebrities who died. They would come to me and speak to me. And the messages were along the lines of, we're good. And then they would give me other messages that are a blur, but somewhere along the lines of like leading and helping and like something about my mission here. And mind you, at this age, I don't know how much I love music yet. I'm still in Baltimore at this time. Was born in Baltimore, so I'm still in Baltimore at this age. So I don't know, what I am in love with or what my calling is yet. So just having those experiences. Having my imaginary friend who really was not imaginary, was actually like an older man. And he was really infatuated with my mom, but he was my friend.
Wow.
I would hold up the bus for him, and
I remember that one.
I don't remember him in detail, but I do remember having somebody. And then just stories of the houses that I lived in. I would play by myself in the basement. Super weird, scary stuff. Just, what are you doing? Okay, God.
Right.
Like, in the closet. Wow, playing peekaboo by myself. Wasn't alone, but just these things as a child, and then going into my adulthood. I'm skipping around a little bit. I'm going into my adulthood when it comes to my spiritual journey, but even into adulthood, from middle school all the way up until now, spirits standing beside my bed and watching over me. And when I wake up, if they feel like their parent isn't what frightened me, they'll turn into my mom, so that way I'm comforted.
Wow.
But I'm watched all of the time.
Wow.
All of the time they're watching. They're just sitting there and they're watching
Wow.
over me. And there was a time, actually, this was in my adulthood when we had first moved to Maryland, actually, and my mom had came in my room. This was late at night. I'm asleep but not sleep. I'm kind of like I'm in that in between state. You know, when you're really like still actually in between dimensions.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like I'm in this state and I see my mom walk in, but I see a brother walking with her. I see a man walking with her, and like I said, they kind of got it right. He has on regular clothes. He had on jeans, and he's kind of see-through, but you can tell that he's not human. First, I thought it was my little brother because of his height and build, but I'm like, why is Kevin like, but it wasn't him. But he had this light with him, and he was just my mom at the time. She was looking in her phone. Because she was trying to find something. She was trying to find something on her phone, and she was really confused. You know how my mom looked when she's like really focused on something. So he's like, he's right beside her, and he's like smiling. He's like, and he's like looking in her phone with her. He's looking in her phone with her, and he's just so happy just to be with her and beside her and help her navigate through whatever she's trying to navigate through, even if it's that little of a thing.
Yeah.
And literally in that moment, I'm like, whoa. I do this thing when I see something and I'm like, because it'll happen sporadically. So I'm like, and I take the breath and I'm like trying to get her attention so she can look and see, but she clearly can't see him.
Right.
But I also didn't want to startle him because he was just so beautiful and he was so happy and at peace with her. And I just wanted to watch him be with her and to have this experience. Then he saw me see him, and then he went away, and he hit himself. But just as an adult, I was in my 20s at that time, and to go on, and even when I saw it, I woke up one day, and I don't know if I was still in between, like, because I'm in between a lot. Even sometimes when I'm here, I'm not really fully here sometimes. So I work on being present. But literally, like, I saw, like, this woman and her child running in, like, a hallway. And I see it right in front of me on top of my bed with my eyes while I'm awake. And I'm watching this. And as the lady's running after her child, she sees me see her. And she's like, oh! And then the whole vision goes away. And I'm like, whoa, like, what was that? But what was that? But just seeing all of these things, like, at a very young age, up into adulthood, demons scratching at my door. And I'm bringing you through this so you can get a full grasp of who I am and why I move the way I do. But even, just demons, or because sometimes demons will sound like dogs, and it was scratching at my door, like scratching at my door. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I don't really have a lot of fear. I never have really had a lot of fear when it came to things, even if it's like the craziest situation. I don't feel it. So I get up and I'm gonna open the door, but I hear a loud and stern voice, "Do not open that door." That's what I heard.
Wow.
And I stopped. I was like, okay, one thing about me, I'm obedient, honey.
Yes.
I'm obedient.
Love it.
And from a young child till on, though, like, I'm very obedient. I've always, like, had that divine connection. So in that moment, I didn't do it. My grandpa, I come from a very spiritual family, as you know. My grandpa, said a prayer and did whatever he did and never really felt those spirits again. But just so many things. I appear in people's dreams sometimes, and they tell me that I tell them stuff and that I guide them. I don't recall some of these things. And even sometimes just seeing people while they're sleeping, I can see their spirits sometimes outside of their body wandering. I've seen that with my bare eyes, and people, I am not sleeping these moments. So just me as a whole, I've always felt like I just didn't fit in, and I was an oddball, and I didn't really have all of the same emotions that
Yeah.
other people had,
Right.
or I do, but I just think of things differently, and I have a different type of control over my
Right.
emotions and a different type of maturity when it comes to handling different things. And I think, Naya, me and you were talking one time, and we had gotten to like a disagreement, and we handled it, and you were like, Shira, I don't ever feel like you really have, like, you feel a lot. Like, I don't ever really feel like you actually have emotions sometimes. Like, you just, and I'm like, no, babe, I actually have an overwhelming amount. But I've learned at an early age how to control it.
Yes.
Because of the certain maturity that I have. And
Yes.
I understand that this is an experience, and I understand, like, even that's why I'm able to, like, meet certain people where they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, if they are emotional, like, if he's a killer, and I know it sounds crazy, but if he's a killer and he killed somebody, I can still see the light within him. And that's got me burned a lot of times. Like,
Yeah.
seeing people who have done very, very bad things to me. And to other people, just watching them and being able to see their light, see through the darkness, you know, and not having any fear in that. And it has burned me. It has.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just to give a, you know, just a starter of like who I am in my entirety, starting at a very, very, very young age.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
So to continue on, like I said, born in Baltimore, grew up with a single mom. I didn't have my father present in my life. And I don't blame him. And mind you, my father loves me to life, loves me unconditionally, and I know that because I can see his heart. I know that because I can see his heart, and not so much based off of his actions.
Yeah.
My experience with my dad at a very young age was, you know, him making promises, you know, like, oh, baby, because I was born in Baltimore, but I also lived in Florida and California as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, baby, I'm going to come to Florida and I'm going to see you. Or, baby, I'm going to come to California, I'm going to see you. Or, it never comes. Or, I'm going to call you, babe, and never calls. Or, I was a musical kid, acting, singing. I'm going to get there. But I did all these things, and he never showed, or starting from a very young age. And I think I opened up about this before, not a lot of affectionate time with my father, with a masculine energy. And yes, I have uncles, lots of them, who love me unconditionally, but they're not my dad, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, so just that, you know, and having a single mom, having a dad that's not super present, who loves me unconditionally,
Right.
loves me, but didn't have the tools to know how to raise a daughter, who he didn't have the tools to learn how to be like a good parent. Like, he just didn't know. So not that it's an excuse, but he just didn't know. It just kind of is what it is, you know. And I love him, and I don't hold, I never really held any grudges against it. I really didn't know I had daddy issues until like down later. You know what I mean? Like, I always was like, oh, I love my dad. Like, it is what it is. He wasn't there, but cool. I don't have any issues with it. Like, you know, but girl, you had trauma from it. So yeah, and also, you know, I was molested when I was younger. Honestly, I was molested by two different family members. One family member everybody knows about, but the other one nobody really knows about. But when I was young, like I said, my mom was a single mom. My dad was out in the streets. So I would be at home sometimes, just like, you know, not really looked after. And my mom was a young mom, so she really didn't know, hey, you have to watch out for kids because these things can happen. Or, you know, she didn't really know that yet. She was only like, what, 19, 20? Something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so I had an uncle at the time where he was a little bit older than me, and I was in the bathtub, and I guess he was giving me a bath, and he fondled with me down there, put his fingers in there, and I was about 5, I want to say. I was about 5 years old. And, you know, so I moved through life at that point, and I didn't really everything kind of moved on. My mom reacted. She talked to me about it. She took me to the doctor. My dad denied that family member ever doing that and said that I lied about it. And and my mom's like, wait, she's 5. Like, why would she lie about something like that?
Right.
But he didn't know what to do in that moment. Like, sometimes it's hard for people to process that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
No excuse, but yeah.
It's right.
So, with that happening, I had a lot of different effects from that. But before I get there, the reason that I even remembered that happened to me, because it happened when I was 5, but I would have a reoccurring dream about it every night. I would have this reoccurring dream for years, and then when I was in middle school, I said, Mom, I've had this reoccurring dream since I was younger. And I said, I have this dream about me being in a tub, and I named the family member, and he would look at me, and he in the tub, and he gives me this very sinister smile. I don't know if you ever seen the movie Smile before,
Yeah.
but that really like sinister smile, like really twisted smile,
Wow.
is what I remember. And I remember the tub; it was very small. I remember the curtains. And everything, and I'm in the tub, and he's looking at me, and he's smiling, and it's lustful, and it's just like distorted a little bit, and I remember him reaching down, me feeling a burn, and me waking up, and I've had that dream for forever, and I'm like, I'm in middle school now, I'm like, Mom, why do I keep having this dream?
Wow.
Why do I keep having this dream? And she said, Dashira, she looked like she saw a ghost. She said, how do you remember that? How do you remember that? And I'm like, oh, wow, like this is something that I have to deal with, that I haven't. And that's why I keep having reoccurring dreams about it. It wasn't dealt with the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. I was so young, I didn't really get to deal with it. I just kept going.
You're 5.
Right?
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter the age that you're molested.
Yeah.
There are so many effects that can happen to a child at such an early age, and you think, oh, they don't remember that. I'm fine. No, you just never know. And then the other time was with another family member, and I remembered. I kept having this dream similar to that. I didn't really speak to you about this one. I talked to somebody else about it, because of how close this family member was to me. And with me sometimes being able to see people in their heart and who they are, I don't blame them always. So with me being able to see his heart and seeing that he didn't have it all mentally.
Yeah.
He did not have it all mentally. No excuse, right? But I know people like, that don't matter. No excuse, but just knowing that he didn't have it all mentally, and just seeing his purity and ignorance to the situation. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But a part of him almost couldn't control himself. Because I also do believe in like demons. Having an impression on people and children, especially if they don't have a strong foundation, so it's easy for like certain entities to hop within people.
Yes, it is.
So me having that background, never really said it, but when I was older, I talked to one of my family members about it, and I was like, I keep having this reoccurring vision and this reoccurring dream about this, and it was bunk beds, and it was a leak in the ceiling, so it was a white bucket. And the leak was just, and you just kept hearing the leak, the raindrop, boop, boop, boop. It doesn't sound like a raindrop right now. It just kept hitting in the bucket, and I remember him doing whatever he was doing, but me focusing on the bucket of water.
Wow.
And and then that really wasn't resolved. But then I'm like, okay, yeah, like I really. As I'm older, though, because that happened when I was young too. All of this, me being molested and touched and all these kind of stuff happened at early ages.
Wow.
And what I will say is with men, like from an early age and on, that's why it's so important to have a father figure to teach you, if you are if you're with a man alone, this is the things that he shouldn't do. If he is starting to ask you questions about this, if he touches you this way, maybe tell your mom about it. Maybe not hang out with him alone again. If you start to feel this feeling, like, just as a dad, or if you have a father figure around you, they won't touch. They'll know, like, oh, I ain't about to. I don't want to go through that man, because he going to take my head off. You know what I mean?
So it puts fear in them.
It puts fear in their heart. So just having that absence. I'm just a pretty girl, little baby, and her mom is hustling and working, and her dad really isn't present. She free for all. So I've always had that experience. There has been times when I lived in Florida where I've almost been kidnapped, by a man. And this story is funny because we were out playing, and this man, he pulled up in his car, and he looked at me, but he looked at all of us, but he was trying to kidnap me because he wanted me. Okay. Right. And I've always had this thing with men where they always sexualize me from a very young age. And now it makes sense. I'm older, but they always sexualize me. And I led all the kids out. I tricked the guy. I've always been really smart. Yeah. I've always been very smart. And I tricked the guy, and I told the kids to fake run across the street. He started driving the one way, but then we ran the other way around. And one of the kids was frozen with fear, so I ran across the street, grabbed her, and we ran. And I picked her up, and we ran, and we hauled home. There was another moment where I was in a daycare center, and it was in the hood in Florida a little bit. Mommy was at work and school. She's entrusting the babysitter to be there and take care of us and stuff like that. Girl, the babysitter was at the grocery store, left us in the house. Okay, I don't know how old I was, maybe 9, 8, I don't know. Left us in the house in the hood. Mind you, the screen door was open, so there was this guy trying to break in the house. He was trying to break in the house. Oh, no. And I'm the oldest, and I have all these children, and they're screaming like,
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I shut the window and locked it in the front of the house. Then he went around to the back of the house, and the slide door was open. He looked at me, and I looked at him. He was about to open up that slide door and come in. I hauled over there. I closed the door, locked it. And then he was at the window. He was mad at me. He had his hands on the window like this and was looking at me. He was like I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you because you're ruining. You know what I mean? And while he's doing this, we were in this position up against the wall. All the children were behind me. Wow. And it was like this the whole time, and I was like this, holding them. Wow. And I feel like I've always had that like protective mentality, this old school, this old soul, this motherly, like, now you always trying to be my mom. Let me be fixing my clothes. You know what I mean? I've always just like had that within me, and I think it stemmed from my experiences with the principal, my experiences with different spirits, and them telling me what I need to do here. Me growing up early, all of those sorts of things. But yeah, just that there. But grew up in Baltimore. We were homeless. We hopped from house to house. I remember having to grow up early, whether it was changing my brother's diapers, feeding him his bottle. I remember us being in the shelter, and I remember, the door being open, and the girls had the chair in the door doing their daughter's hair. I remember the energy of the place being very dark and low, and I remember my mom being so strong and making sure that she gave us love. But my mom was very honest with me always. Dashira, we're going to get through this, baby. It's me and you together. We're going to do this. She would always tell me and always be so uplifting to me. But I really wasn't really fearful. I wasn't. I just thought we just going through this experience. I just felt like I need to protect my mom. I need to protect my mom, and I need to protect my brother. Like, I'm the man of the house, right? That's what I need to do, So just doing those things. I remember when we got out of the shelter, and we got our very first home in Baltimore, apartment, I'm sorry. And I remember, it just wasn't the best neighborhood, police running around, chasing people down. And I remember my mom being tired of it and us moving to Florida.
Yeah.
And us moving to Florida. And I think I moved to Florida, I don't know, at age 7, maybe 7 years old.
Yeah.
But I will say, life in Baltimore, like, yes, we had a lot of hard times, but I grew up with family. I lived in a house with, like, my aunts and my uncles. And it wasn't always great, but I always had fun. I never wanted for anything. I always had food. I always had all the toys in the world. I was fresh. Hair was done. Clean. Had my education, everything. But just growing up with a single mom, of course, there's going to be troubles when she's that young.
Yeah.
But she still instilled a lot within me. But yeah, from there, went to Florida. Florida was lit, had a phenomenal life in Florida. I was a tomboy, used to play football outside with the guys, used to be the fastest to race, basketball, super rough, all of that. But Florida, I would also help mommy out, cook. Kevin, by the time she came home from school and work, Kevin would have, I almost called him Yanni. Kevin would have his bath. He would be fed. Everything would be done by the time my mom got home.
Wow.
But yeah, so, but in Florida is where I discovered my love for music.
Yes.
Florida is where I discovered my love for music. So I had started really listening to Alicia Keys. That was my girl. Lauryn Hill, Etta James, like at an early age, listening to these powerhouse women, these strong women. And I'm like, I want to do that. One thing about me is I become obsessive. I think I told you this the other day. I become obsessive. Sometimes it's good when I want to get something done, honey, and then sometimes it's like, all right, girl, get it together. But when I'm fixated on something, I'm gonna get it, and that's in every aspect. So I literally practice, and I would come to my mom and I'm like, Mommy, how do I sound now? And she was like, not yet, baby, not yet. She ain't just shut me down like, you can't sing, you did it. She didn't speak down on me. She said, not yet, keep trying. One day I came to her and I sang to her and she started crying. And mind you, I'm already in this place where I know that there's something more to life. I know that there's something more than just like physical reality. I know this at a young age. Like I have all those things, but I didn't tap into music yet.
Yeah.
So when I sang to her and she started crying, I'm like, oh my God, like, ooh, it was that bad. Like I didn't do that. I didn't do good. And she's like, no, baby, I'm singing because you make me feel good. These are tears of joy. So I said in that moment, I'm like, what? I just made you cry because you liked what I did?
Yeah.
From my voice, from my music?
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I have to do this. I said, and I was just thinking, like, imagine, like, what I could do to the world. Like, if I sang and, like, a lot of people in the world felt good, like, I can make them feel like I can do that with my voice. And it was over from there. That's what I was like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, like really discovered my love for music there, dancing. I was in cheer, all sorts of things. But really discovered my love for music there. Left Florida at the age of 12 or 11.
Had to be about, maybe
11?
about 11.
Around 11, and when we moved to California was when I really hopped into music and acting and dancing. I had music auditions, acting auditions. I was with a agency called John Powers. So they had me on auditions, honey. I was, the Katie from My Wife and Kids.
Yeah.
I would see so many different celebrities all the time. We would literally go to the same auditions. I've seen people on Disney Channel that I've auditioned with.
Yeah.
So, girl, I was almost on the screen with you.
Yeah.
you know the thing that, because you're a Disney Channel kid. So very young, like just being in this world of acting and in music and all this. So we really in these rooms with these producers. We really in these studio spaces. We are really in it. We're in Hollywood. We are in LA. Went to Wendy Raquel School of the Arts. Was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Have a really great friend from that who has made it and has done very well with himself. So yeah, like just having those experiences very young really like put that fire in me. me, which is why I'm still in music today and acting and things of that nature. However, you're probably like, okay, well, why didn't you make it? Why you stop?
Yeah.
Honey, I've had directors and producers try to sleep with me at a young age. Try to sleep with my mom. And I started realizing how like demonic it was. And not in its entirety. Hollywood isn't all bad. Music and the industry of things is not all bad. I've just encountered some really dark, demonic, satanistic things at a very young age, and it deterred me. So one of those things was, them trying to sleep with me. I went to a studio session one time, and I'm underage, and I was with my mentor, but the guy in the studio, I had went out to go to the bathroom, but he was in the studio. He said, come with me over here. Mind you, I've been molested, and I already kind of know what it's like. I'm already knowing what the difference is when a man is genuine and he wants to have a conversation with you. He wants to like pour into you, or if he has another agenda.
Right.
And so I said, nah. I went into the studio, and I told my mentor. My mentor went off. I waited till he left because my mentor was like a father figure to me. He literally would protect me. He does not play like that. So that was one of the experiences that was really wild. This guy found me on Facebook. He told me, hey, he tried his hand again. He tried his hand again with me. Mind you, I'm like 14. I think he was like 30 at the time. So I'm really looking at him like he's an older man. And he was like, you'll get further if you do this with me, and I'm like, oh, no, bro. I said, no, I'll make it on my own. And then that was one experience. There was another experience where I was in a music group, and we actually were in talks with Michael Jackson's camp. And it was really, really cool working with them. Because we were a music group, but we were also going to be on a show, like on TV and acting and stuff like that. It was going to be like a music like show that we were doing. And it got to the point where it was time for me to get into contract, not with Michael Jackson's camp, but with my personal agency that I was working with.
Okay.
And there's a thing called a 360 contract. Girl, in this contract, basically, you're a slave. There's a certain amount of years that they would have. They would be able to own you for. So you would have to work for them for this amount of years, and then even when it gets to that amount of years, they would still have an affinity amount of times where they can renew the contract if they wanted to or not. So that was a turnoff. I was so excited about this opportunity. I was so excited about all this, but just seeing that, I'm like, no. I always knew intuitively. I was never so greedy to the point where I was like, I want money, or I want to like that's all I want. My values. My mom instilled, and then just from a young child, like my values have been different. So I'm not just gonna sign any contract and then be slutted out. Like I'm not gonna do it. So that was an experience that was a turn off for me, and I had this really bad fallout with the guy who was a leader of the group, who was trying to manage me and all that. And this man was so sweet to me before, poured into me. Just was everything for me, even picked me up sometime to take me to auditions. And the moment I said I didn't want to sign that contract, you would have thought this man never knew me a day in his life. He turned against me like no other. Then that's when I learned the lesson, like some people, manipulation is real. Manipulation is real. And mind you, I see the good in people, but I ignore the bad things. At that time, right? I ignored the bad things. I'm like, I see the darkness around him, but I see his heart too, right? So that was an experience that was a turn off. And then another, out in Cali in my time doing music, there was another person who wanted to sign me to his label. But this person had opened up to me about Satanism, and the things that he had done and the rituals that he would do. And people just talk to me. Like they feel so comfortable with me. And then I was young, so they also felt like I was naive in things, not really realizing my life story and how fast I grew up. But you know, and in that moment, not saying that there's anything with Satanism. If that's your cup of tea, and if that's who you feel like you want to worship, and that if that's what you want to do, I am not anybody. I'm not God. I am not going to judge you. That is not up for me to do. I don't know your heart. I don't know what you've been through in your life. I don't know how you got there. That's just not what I'm into.
Right.
So he wanted to do a contract with me, and this contract wasn't. It was not good. They wanted to change my name to Dash. They wanted me to Dash.
Yes.
They wanted me to. They wanted me to be emotionless. They wanted me to be like, just emotionless.
Like emo?
Emo. They want to be emo. And I wasn't. I am bubbly. I'm like, hey, y'all, how are you? You know. There was certain lyrics that I would write into the music because I've always been divine and spiritual. And there were certain lyrics that I would write, and they were like, oh, no, you can't say that. You can't do that because that'll piss this person off, or that'll, you know. So I didn't like that. I didn't like that control, and I'm free. Even my job now, I'm like, look, I just want to be free, which is why I'm working so hard to be financially free so I can do whatever I want. But freedom is a big thing to me. I'm not a slave, never been. And so just those experiences in Hollywood, and I could keep going on and on, but that's why it deterred me from music. And I wasn't hip to Tory Lanez like that, because Tory Lanez is an independent artist. Like, he does his own thing. Like, he made himself a lot, and he navigated through things in a phenomenal way. And but at the time I wasn't super hip, right? But what I did say is I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to still do this, but I just want to pour into music, and I want to be signed to an independent label, and I want to build my own team of people who I trust, who have genuine hearts, and I want us to have a love for this thing, and I want us to move forward and to do our own thing, create our own tours, create our own, like, do it ourselves, right? Yeah. That's what I said, not knowing that people have done this, the Wayans Bros,
right?
And it goes on, like, people do their own thing,
right?
And this is just an idea I thought I originated. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, girl, it's been done, and they can help you out with it.
Yeah.
Right.
But, really just was deterred by that. It was so dark, and I'm so light, and I've been through things, and I know how it can be, in those dark moments. But yeah, so those are some of the darker things, some of the light in Hollywood and in the music is I've met so many great people, so many phenomenal people that I've learned from. I actually did I forget, it was this show, it was this like big thing. I don't know if it was America's Top Talent
Search, something
America's
like that.
Talent Search.
It was a talent search. I remember that.
Something. Okay. And I had did my thing. I had sang, I had danced, I did a monologue, I did all these different things. And it's like the majority, like, white kids and Asian
Actually,
kids.
It was Asian.
Asian kids. I'm the little black girl, little skinny thing,
Yeah.
And I'm coming up there and I'm doing my thing. I used to dance, for real.
Yeah.
Like, now I do my two-step, but I used to dance, honey. I used to dance. You probably see it a little bit in rehearsal, but I used to dance. And yeah, like, literally, they kept calling my name. Dashira George. Best monologue. Dashira George. Best dancer.
Yep.
And I actually made it to the Chinese newspaper. I made it to the Chinese newspaper. And I did so many things. I met so many great people. The person in Michael Jackson's camp took a special liking to me, and we built a relationship. And one of the unfortunate things was... when that relationship ended, the person, like the manager guy, cut that off and didn't give me, he wouldn't allow us to, So I had a lot of great experiences. I've met a lot of people. I've done a lot of different things. My rap sheet in Hollywood and LA is long.
Yeah.
Long. My voice being on different people's tracks.
Yes.
Like that you're probably that you've listened to that music before, like mentoring and doing like background vocals for people, harmonies for people, like at the age of like 14, So done all that, did all that, and then that's when I went to school for jazz voice, El Camino College in Torrance, and I actually had a music teacher who you know, it was my first year. I got lead singer, and I was a part of the jazz band. We would travel everywhere. And at this time, I had met my child's father. And then this was also the time where my mom was sick, and we didn't know that she was sick.
Right.
So literally, I got pregnant. I got pregnant. And mind you, I'm in musicals, I'm in shows, I'm in school, I'm on the honor rolls in college. You know how like you get honor roll and dean's list? You get that in middle school, high school, and college, honey. I was still on it. Okay, bright, like all of that, like going for what I needed to, and I had gotten pregnant, and me and him, our relationship was cool. We really, you know, had that like puppy love and all of that kind of thing. And he wasn't there because he had a lot going on in his life, a lot of trauma going through his life, a lot of things that he had to deal with, just a lot. So during my pregnancy, I was alone. I was alone during my pregnancy. And then when he finally did come around, he still was in and out, and I had to do a lot of things on my own. So when I had my son, I broke up with him. And, you know, we were on and off from there. But just like really like being a single mom immediately, literally coming from like doing all of these things, being like super determined about things, like living life, like having this drive, going so far, having this bright future ahead of me. And my son's a blessing. And then, but to have that baby and to have to stop, and then my mom being sick, and having to, I quit school, and I wish I didn't do that, but I quit school. And when my mom became sick, and I got a job, and I was working and trying to help out as much as I could in the household, and then also, you know, be pregnant and all that. And then
yeah, that's hard.
When I did have the baby, it was around the same time that she actually was in the hospital, and she was on her deathbed. And so just like going through all of that then, and having to, and once I did have my baby, she actually lived for my son, because she was so excited to see her grandchild. She fought through it, and she fought to be here. But, you know, and then moving to Maryland, and really still having to pick things up, you know, be a single mom, and then also like do what I can with my little brother Kevin. My little brother Kevin has always been like my son, from a child and on. So he would always like have this, like, you're my sister. Why do you treat me like this, you know? But I had to help mom out early. So I have to help mommy. So when you're not on things, there's no father here for us, me or you. So I have to be these things, you know. He understands now. So moving to Maryland and having to hold things down in the household.
That wasn't working.
And
sick.
She was sick and had to hold things down, make sure that she was good, make sure that her mental was good. Made sure that she had to work through some of the traumas that she had been through, and just helping her out, because I've seen my mom go through so much. But just being there for my mom from the beginning to end of things, helping her with her book and write her book, helping her become more emotional and process her emotions. And just all these things, all this knowledge that I had as a young girl, but actually putting it into effect and realizing with my mom getting sick, like I have to step in more and I have to do more, even that I've been doing, not only working and providing, but I also have to be there. So just like always having to grow up early, having to, and these are all things that I loved about me. I love helping my mom. I loved taking care of my brother and doing those things. I love giving him a bath, never complained about it. It's always been within me. I've always wanted to be, what do you want to be? I want to be a mom. I want to be married. I want to take care of people. I want to help children. I've always wanted to help. So I did all of these things from a very young age with joy to this day. Well, not to this day, because she got her own stuff. But, you know, till I was older and living in Maryland, did it with love and with joy and happiness, never feeling like, oh, why me? No. I loved that because my mom sacrificed for me at an early age, you know, us living in a shelter. She made sure we was good. There were times where she tried to not eat. She tried to not eat to feed us. And I would be like, nah, we splitting this. You're going to eat anyway. You know what I mean? But just did all that with joy. But Yes. Let me just see. But I spoke so
Wow.
much about everything, I feel like. But yeah, literally from Baltimore to Florida to Maryland. Growing up, found my love for music. Oh, that's where I was. I once I had gotten pregnant, I had took a break from music. I had taken a break from acting and all of those things. And actually, when I got to Maryland and I got my feet wet a little bit, I started going into the open mic scene. I met one of my good friends. His name is Rebirth. He actually introduced me to the scene and things of that nature. Got back into music that way. Released my first album out here in Maryland.
Wow.
Got so much love from it. Still doing music to this day. I have shows coming up.
Yes.
On December 20th with my good friend Rodney J, and like doing a birthday show for him, and have another show on the 27th of this month for my good friend Truth the Poet, and just being featured and doing music still and acting as well.
Yeah.
I'm a lead right now in our musical Dark City.
Yeah.
Acting, singing, dancing, I'm still doing it. Although things started off patchy in my life, you know, in discovering music, getting deterred away from it, not really wanting to do it anymore, feeling like I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if God lives here within this, but He does. He does live within it, and I'm still doing it today, and I feel great today. I'm a phenomenal mom today to my son. I've had so much experience, so much that my mom has instilled within me, you know, to become the person that I am today. How to deal with people, how to talk to people who's been through trauma, just how to navigate through things, and to be able to see people, the light within them, even if it's like so much darkness, and you know, just having that understanding and ability to be able to put myself in that other person's shoes and help with them and walk with them, which is why, you know, I want to now, you know, I'm doing music and things of that nature, but I want a nonprofit organization that me and my mom were actually working on. I want to help more within the community. I want to speak more. You know, I want to tell my story. I want to do these things to really help. But yeah, yo, I think that's enough talking for me. I think I did it all. I did it all.
Wow.
But yeah, that's it. That's Dashira.
Wow.
That's a little bit about me. I'm very private. I'm not. If you know me, you know me. But if you don't know me, you don't know me.
Yeah.
I'm not, and you know, on my social media page, people, I show them what I want to show them, right? But nobody really knows Dashira. So yeah.
Wow.
That is so true.
That was so powerful. I know you probably have so many questions.
But you go
I
ahead.
have so many
Yes,
too.
go ahead.
I have two questions. My first one is, so from hearing your story, it sounds like there was a lot of pouring into others because that's who you are. So at what point, or I guess, like, were you always doing it the whole time? Like, when were you pouring into yourself?
That's the question I was going to ask.
Girl.
So please speak that.
I didn't hear a lot of it, but I
She
know that
never
it was
did.
happening because I see you today. But
Honestly, it wasn't until recent times. Honestly, it wasn't until recent times, because I get so much pleasure out of pleasing others. I get so much pleasure out of like helping. That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But then when I realized I had trauma with like men and wanting to be loved by a man and feel that affection by a man, and having trouble with relationships and like all these sorts of things, I realized that I really needed to heal through things, and I had trauma. And I think when I said that moment when I was sleeping beside my son and I still felt alone,
Yeah.
I think that's when it started.
Yeah.
When I'm like, okay, I need to actually start to pour within myself and deal with certain things that I've been through, and not keep going, like to take that moment. But yeah, girl, that was my 20s, you know, I was like 24 maybe.
Wow.
Out here in Maryland, and I took that step then.
Wow.
I love that.
And now it's a part of my ritual to pour into myself.
Yeah.
And I'm very protective of myself and my energy.
Yeah. I know.
So yeah,
Love
took
that.
a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the second, we talked a lot about the first abuse, sexual abuse. The second abuse, how did you even get over that? Did you forgive that person? What happened?
Yeah, 100%. So both of my abusers, I forgive them completely. I forgive them completely. And literally the only way that my abuse really affected me was I was afraid of men.
Yeah.
I was afraid of men. I was afraid to have sex.
Yeah.
Literally, this is probably TMI, but I didn't even really masturbate until I was 19. And my boyfriend at the time, we were trying to get ready to actually do the real thing. So he started fondling. And that's when it really started happening at 19. So I was afraid of sex. I was afraid of men. I was afraid of all of those things. And then I also have trauma with my son now. I'm very protective and things of that nature. But I forgave them. I never blamed them from the beginning. The first one, I had a hard life. Okay. His life was not the greatest. Yeah. And just his environment wasn't the greatest. And I don't think he had everything that he needed to help with his mental state.
That's true.
Probably still don't have the tools for that. So I don't blame him for it. I wish that I more so blame the parents and wishing that they would have done more, because I know he has a story. Yeah. So never blamed him completely. Forgive him. Love him. And the second person, love him way more. You know, the first person, cool, love. I always had love in my heart. Don't really care for him like that. Don't really got to have the conversation with him. But the second person, I love. Yeah. I love. And the second person, I, still working through mental things today.
Yeah. That's
you
what
know
I
what
was
I mean?
Ask.
Yeah. And I do know that this person, the second person, has tried other women in the family too. Yeah. Wasn't successful, thank God, but just not all the way there. So I never really blamed them. I blamed their parents and not really seeing them as a child, like, oh, that person just so hyper, like just put them on,
right?
Like,
right.
No, like spend time.
Parents do, yeah.
Because now I blame you.
Yeah.
Like, take time with your baby, and if they're going through things, if they're seeing demons, if there are things that are telling them to do things, like, you need to have those conversations with them. So I'll never blame them, love them. This second person could be in the same room. We'll have a conversation, give advice to them. They don't even know that I remember, and I never brought it up. Yeah. This is one that I kept under wraps for real, because it's not something that I really needed to heal from like that, outside of the being afraid of men, and it's not something that I felt like needed to be like on the forefront just because of the place that person was in. And I think it's better, because I think I would do more damage than good if I brought it up. Because I'm in a better place. So if I brought it, I feel like
he wouldn't.
It would do more damage to him and
in his life.
Yeah. So
wow, I did that. But the second part to that is, I know you didn't tell this, but you actually was covered up. Shira used to wear layers and layers and layers of clothes, so it affected you even as a teenager. So I would always ask you, I mean, it's hot outside, y'all. We in California. Yeah. She would have on leg warmers. She would have on shorts, but her top always was covered. She had on a shirt on top of that, and she also had a vest on. Wow. Even though that was your little style, it was way too many clothes. You would never show your body. She was afraid to be in the same room with men for a very long time. Yeah,
very, very long time.
Very long time. So
very long time, and I was sexualized so early. So early, afraid to have sex. But then I also had that when I did have sex, I could have been a sex addict, okay?
Right.
And I controlled myself. I controlled myself because I not that I didn't want to have sex. I had thoughts about it. I was just too afraid to. But I had controlled myself. I had to fight against it and not to be out here in a hoe, for real. Yeah. Like, literally.
It could have went that way.
It could have went that way. I just always had that discipline, and I always kind of knew I'm here for an experience. This is a human experience. I know why I'm here. I know what I got to do. I've always had that knowledge. So with, the sex thing, after I had sex, with my first, I've only had 3 boyfriends, by the way. And I didn't have a super wild experience where I've had sex with multiple men. But I had to fight against that. Yeah. It was a real thing. It was a real demons I had to fight through. Yeah. So not that, that just never, no. I'm very, very sexual. I have a very high sex drive, but I know how to control it.
Yeah. I love that.
That's something that was also in effect. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Sex ain't bad. But I have a really high sex drive.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, Dashira, that is great. know we got it. Getting ready to
get ready
out of here.
Yeah.
God, it's still so many questions.
So many.
That I have, but I would like to say, really thank you for sharing your story. Number one, it's very powerful, and I'm your mom, and just sitting here with the emotions behind it. That was a lot to go through for one person. So we have Q&A for her story, which is going to be once this video actually drop, it'll be that Wednesday after, so you can talk to her and get your questions prepared. Anybody want to say anything else?
Just so brave of you to touch on the things that you touched on, especially when it comes to the spiritual things and things that you've seen. So many people are so scared to say that and to admit that they have those experiences. So I just commend you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm an open book. So for the Q&A session, ask the questions, ask the hard questions. I am open, and
And please speak about something going on in the home. Do not be afraid. I would like to end it with that.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Please speak about it. Talk to someone. Find someone you trust, because it's very important. You can get help.
Yeah.
So,
thank y'all. Thank you for giving me this platform to speak
on. Sisterhood. Yes. Thank you. So until next time, guys.
Thank you so
we'll
much
see
for
you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Remember to subscribe, like, and share, and follow us on all social media platforms.